In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to fill in your unit circle. So for degrees, let's start with that. Our first degree measure, so starting at the origin, we have a radius of 1, and our first measure would be just 0 degrees, and that's because it's just sitting at what we call standard position of our circle. And then if we rotate around, our first measure that we really focus on is 30 degrees. And then 45 degrees, and then 60 degrees, and then at the top, so at a 90-degree angle, we have that first edge of our quadrant. So that's like our first quadrant. Then if you add 30 more degrees to the 90 degrees, you get 120 degrees. 90 plus 45 is 135. And 90 plus 60 is 150 degrees. And then at the halfway mark, we have 180 degrees. Then let's say 180 plus 30, so that would be 210 degrees. 180 plus 45 is 225 degrees. And 180 plus 60 is 240 degrees. And then 180 plus 90, so at that third quadrant, we'd have 270 degrees. Then let's add 30, get 300. 270 plus 45 is 315, and 270 plus 60 is 330 degrees. So what I've done first is go through all of the degrees. Oh, let's add the last one. So 330 to get to that last, or you could say 270 plus 90 is back to 360. So 0 degrees is our starting point. But once we've rotated all the way around the circle, it's also 360 degrees. So it acts for both measurements. Okay, now we've talked about converting radians to degrees at this point. So we would have 0 pi for 0. We would have pi is equal to 180. So pi over 2 is 90. 370 would be 3 pi over 2 because it's like 1.5 pi. And then 360 is equal to 2 pi. So those are the main ones, and then you can do each one individually. So if you take each measure and convert it to degrees, so let's say 30 times pi over 180, that would give us pi over 6. If we have 45 over 180, 45 times pi divided by 180, we would get pi over 4. And then 60 would be pi over 3. And then we keep going around the circle. So 120 times pi over 180, we would need to reduce those, and we would end up with 2 pi over 3 radians. Let's see, 135 times pi over 180 would be 3 pi over 4. And then 150 times pi over 180 would be 5 pi over 6. All right, and then we have pi. And then we have 210. So 210 times pi over 180. Let's see, they both divide by 30. So that would be 7 pi over 6. 225 divides by 45. How many times? That would be 5. So we would have 5 pi over 4. And 240 times pi over 180. They both divide by 60. So that would be 4 pi over 3. All right, so that's that quadrant. We have one more to go. You can always just convert. That way you don't have to memorize all of them. Let's see. 300 divided by 180. So that would be 5 pi over 3. Those both divide by 60. That's what that was. All right, and then 315 times pi over 180. So 315 divided by 45 would be 7. So we have 7 pi over 4, and then 330 times pi over 180 let's see. That would give us 11 pi over 6 because they both divided by 30. So we get all of them converted into radians. So now I have degrees are all in red, radians are all in blue. Let's look at the coordinates. So I'm going to put the coordinates in green. So for my first coordinate, I have the square root of 3 over 2 and 1/2. For the second coordinate, I have the square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. So that means for the x is my cosine or my horizontal, and the y or the vertical is the sine value. I'm just going to write that in this first quadrant, but that would continue for every single coordinate. And then for the 60-degree point, it would be 1/2 and then square root of 3 over 2. For my first coordinate, it would just be 1, 0. I should have started with that one. For the one at 90 degrees, it would be 0, 1. And then what's going to start to happen is it rotates around the circle. So this 60-degree angle is going to like reflect over here, basically. And your coordinates stay the same. So I'll have 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. But the signs change now because I'm in this second quadrant. So it's negative, positive for this quadrant. So let me write this down. We have positive, positive in the first quadrant. We have negative, positive in the second quadrant. So let's write down the same coordinates. So these three stay the same. Their signs will just change is the only thing that happens. So I have negative square root of 2 over 2, positive square root of 2 over 2. And I have negative square root of 3 over 2 and positive 1/2. So notice like those correspond to the ones across from them. All right. I don't want to leave all of that extra drawing in there. So let me erase that for a minute. So now let's continue around the circle. So the 150-degree coordinate of that point is going to reflect down here where the 210-degree angle is. And at 180 degrees, I have a radius of 1. So that point is located at -1, 0. Because all I did was go left 1 to get there. So again, this 150-degree coordinate is going to reflect down here for the 210-degree coordinate. All that's going to happen is it's going to change signs again. So notice the third quadrant is negative, negative. So I'm going to put negative square root of 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. So those are the same. In the middle, same thing's going to happen. I'm going to have a negative square root of 2 over 2 and another negative square root of 2 over 2. And then I'm going to have a negative 1/2 and a negative square root of 3 over 2. So those same coordinates keep on repeating around the unit circle. They just change sign. So the ones that were here for 240 degrees are going to correspond or reflect over to where the 300-degree angle is. They're just going to change signs again. So the fourth quadrant is positive, negative. So let's fill those in. We have 1/2 negative square root of 3 over 2. We have square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. And we have the square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. Okay, so let's fill in that last one for 270 degrees. It just went down 1, so it will be 0, negative 1. And that is the entire unit circle. So degrees are in red, radians are in blue, and all of the coordinates are now in green. So that's it. Thanks for listening.